Hi everyone, good afternoon. We will start in next 2 to 3 minutes. Am I audible to everyone?
Yes.
Yeah, you are audible.
Yeah, so we'll start in 2 minutes. Next 2 minutes, we are waiting for a few more people to join us. Thank you everyone. Hello all, very good evening. Before I start, I would like to know, am I audible once again?
Yes, Ekta.
Thank you so much.
Yes.
So, yes. Hello all, a very good evening. Myself, Ekta Dubey, and on behalf of the Analytics team and our partners, Freshworks and Ozontel, we welcome you all on an interesting roundtable session, which is Effortless CX, How Fintech Companies are Transforming CX Today. So before we start this roundtable, there are a few guidelines that I would quickly like to highlight and make you people aware of. Requesting all the attendees to be on mute when the speakers are taking the session or sharing their thoughts. Of course, we would be encouraging Q&A. So when the attendees can ask the question, there are certain guidelines that need to follow. You need to raise your hand, unmute yourself on your video, and introduce yourself and put your questions to our panel. So first, I would like to introduce our partners. Freshworks. Businesses are built on Freshworks, which makes it fast and easy for businesses to delight their customers and employees. They do this by taking a fresh approach to building and delivering software that is affordable, quick to implement, and designed for the end user. Talking about our next partner, Ozontel, it was founded in 2007 by an experienced team of technologists and entrepreneurs. The full-stack customer experience software was built from the ground up to solve the practical problems that kept call centers worldwide from making the most of the communications platform. They're known for developing and launching the first cloud-based customer experience platform in the Indian marketplace. Since then, unparalleled customer support and continuous AI innovation continues to set them apart as they've grown to create a global impact. Today, we have some great set of speakers who are going to join us in the panel and share their interesting insights on how fintech companies are transforming the CX today. Happy to introduce a panel. We have Mr. Vikrant Saini, Head Customer Re-Engineering with Razorpay, Mr. Ashutosh Mohapatra, Senior VP Head of Business with PagerBook, Fintech and SaaS Angel Investor, Mr. Rajat Jain, CPO, Lending and Consumer Products with BharatPay, Mr. Sagar Rane, National Sales Head with Ozontel, and Ujjala Kata, Manager Solution Engineering with Freshworks. And happy to invite a moderator on board, Ms. Garima Gayatri from Ozontel, to take up this session. Thank you so much, everyone, once again, and happy to hear you out. Over to you, Garima.
Thank you so much, Ekta, for the introduction, and I welcome you all once again. Thank you for making time for this conversation today. Before we begin, just a quick note for our audience, as Ekta has already highlighted the instructions for communication today, but we would really like this interaction to be engaging. And please feel free to drop in your comments or questions for our speakers in the chat section. We might not be able to take you over audio or video due to time constraints, but we would love to hear your thoughts today. So thank you so much to all the participants who have joined us in the audience section today as well. Now, Packing years into months, the fillip to our digital lives has been phenomenal in recent times. If we look at the silver lining from the pandemic, there has been rapid digital transformation across business models, channels, and touch points. We all were introduced to new ways of work and life, and we all had to adjust. So, how did a diverse and massive country like India transform from a street economy to a screen economy? Underlying this shift is a greater need for organizational agility in tandem to closer ties with customers in a changing world order. The adoption of digital technology has been complex, not just for businesses, but also for our consumers. Indian fintechs and digital payment companies have made significant progress, no doubt, towards offering a good range of integrated end user friendly solutions that harness advanced technologies and deploy innovative business models. And since digital narrative is a change in making, with the opportunity to reach a diverse group of audience, there have been numerous challenges as well. Customer priorities and expectations continue to evolve, and we are living in an age of instant convenience, safety, security, and scalability while easing customer experiences. Quite a daunting task for the fintech companies today. But yes, they are rising up to this challenge, and we'll be discussing in today's session how. Along with this, there is definitely a mindset and behavioral change. Clearly, our world will never be the same again. On this note, I would like to open the very first question for all our guests today. Keeping all this in mind, what do you see as the new customer expectations that fintech companies are trying to address? How are you designing better CX strategies, keeping these new expectations in mind? So this is the opening question, and whoever would like to open the session for us is most welcome.
Sure. I'll go ahead. Thanks a lot, Garima, for setting the context for all of us. Hello, everybody. Great to join in and participate in such an engaging conversation. This is Rajat here from BharatPay. I lead the consumer and lending verticals. I think what's been happening here in the age of the digital is digital has changed user behavior, and everybody wants everything instantly. If you don't provide something to the user will leave you and go somewhere else. Since it's about getting things instantly, as a user, the user does not want any issues. The user wants faster resolution. The user has limited tolerance, and the attachment to products has relatively reduced. And there is this problem of higher churn, which consumer companies are facing today. Strategies which I think are becoming more and more relevant nowadays is being more proactive than being reactive. Gone are the days where in physical products, the user would reach out to you and then you revert back to the user. You have to preempt what the problems could be and solve for them in a product-led manner rather than being service-led when it comes to managing customer experience. That's that. And also, I think one really other important thing is the entire value chain of customer experience, which not only is servicing, which involves awareness, engagement, evaluation, purchase, and then support, needs to be played out by different companies differently. How do you manage awareness better? How do you engage with your user better? How do you enable the user to evaluate your product better and make the purchase decision is equally important as is the support aspect with regards to response times and self-serves, etc. So quite many times we've seen in our experience, companies focus on the support aspect a lot, but not focus so much on the product aspect with regards to managing customer experience. And that, in our experience, has been the change which has happened over the last couple of years at least, and is going forth consistently as well in terms of managing CX.
Right, Rajat. I think you have brilliantly articulated the exact pain points, and I would like all our speakers to take cue from here and lead the conversation. Over to you, Asutosh.
Yeah, thank you, Rajat. I think Again, very succinctly and very well put down. And by the way, say hi to Swell, one of my old friends from McKinsey. Uh, and BharatPay is one of the companies where I think there's a lot of things have been done over the last few years. I would rather slightly from what we do, I think it's not pager, but it's padrar. Padrar is effectively what salary bolte hain North India mein. So we are a 2-year-old startup, and from a journey point of view of how we looked at customer support, maybe what Rajat would be doing in BharatPay may be different from what we are doing here. But yes, eventually we reach the same similar stage of how our approach of strategy would be. For example, what Rajat said, many of those were already WIP for us. A lot of things are already thought through. Few of them are already work in progress. For example, I think Ujjala is from Freshworks. So we use Freshchat for our support. And why did we choose Freshchat and over something else? I know Ozone team is here. We also for telecalling used evaluated between Exotel, Ozone Tel, and multiple other things, and then we finally used Exotel for now. Well, several things which comes to the decision making process, and why did we have to do it? So our journey when we started roughly 21, 22 months back, the company that was purely from a point of view reaching out to users. Ours is more HRMS. On top of it, we do lending. We are kind of fintech embedded on SaaS. It's not a pure SaaS or pure fintech. So when we started doing SaaS, our main objective was to build engagement. How do you build engagement? It's never reactive. So we have to reach out to users. Okay, after your engagement has dropped, you're not using this feature. You signed up for it, and so on and so forth. Uske baad, once the engagement is regained proactively, then obviously you can obviously say, do you need whatever the loans, etc., etc. And uske baad bhi, okay, once the loan started, a lot of people's loans are revolving, uh, and people take loans because they have the capital, they have the choice. That there's availability of loans are plenty. So how do you build the relationship, collections, फिर उसके बाद आते हैं, and all those problems come intervene. But then coming to the execution side of it, we were using Zendex earlier as one of our products. Then we decided when we are scaling up, our 1 year is done, we have to do a lot more things proactively. And Freshchat offered us those flexibilities and those modules, even though Freshchat was slightly expensive. So now what calls do you make, even if it is more expensive than a Zendex, to choose for something? वहां पे value add was there clearly for us, and then we decided to do it. But then today we have another problem. For example, our sales uses LeadsThread, support uses Freshchat, and for telecalling we use Exotel. There's slight discrepancy between our sales and support in terms of the integration, which is still ongoing. Again, Ujjala, I'll pin you separately. I need help on that. But yes, so ours mainly has been that the same proactive. We were proactive from the start. It moved towards the reactive mechanism in between when we had a lot of customers. But then we realized if we have to embed fintech on top of our SaaS platform, we need to be proactive even further than what we used to be at the start of our journey 2 years back. So yes, I think any of our strategy, whether to use Freshchat or LeadsThread or Exotel or anything, and even if it's slightly cost heavy, has always been towards that proactive approach of engaging and retaining the user before the user churns. User churn होने के बाद if I reach out to him or her and say, why have you churned? User बोलेगा, yes, you did not give me the support. That is reactive in nature, right? Yes, a few users may return. That is their generosity. But then being proactive definitely helps and will always help any company anywhere. Thank you. Over
Right.
to you.
Right, Ashutosh. Thank you so much for helping us understand your journey. And I could see three very important aspects here. You talked about customer acquisition, retention, and how we build engagement around that. So I think Ujjala would be able to lead the conversation now. Over to you.
Absolutely. Thank you, Garima. Once again, good evening to all of you in the panel and the team here. So we understand, right? Like, the customer experience, the trend has entirely changed. One, because with the advent of digital transformation, what we have done is not only the startups which have already adopted technology, but also the established financial institutions, they have adopted technology. And what happens is the combination of digital transformation, adopting technology, and the pandemic, we actually started giving services digitally, contactless, and remotely, right? So that is from a customer side of things, and that has revolutionized our customer experience also. And like Rajat has rightly said, with this new millennial space that we are into, a lot of millennials now being the customers of these fintech apps, where you don't even need a bank account, right? You just have a phone number, and then you can go ahead and transfer money here and there. So that also has resulted in that want it now culture, right, which Rajat has mentioned, right? They just want the support right now, then and there. And we've seen that 80% of them, they demand these quicker responses. And the second, trend that we have seen is giving an omni-channel experience. Now that we're talking about millennials, now that we're talking about messaging first platforms, the customers, they not only want to reach out to you via the mobile app, like you have a support on your mobile app, but not only that, like if on a website there is a chatbot, or if they could be using social media to reach out to you, be it WhatsApp. So they want that omni-channel experience. They can reach out to you at their convenience. But at the same time, what they also expect is whoever they reach out to, irrespective of the channel, they need to have context of what the problem is, right? So they're also looking at an omni-channel context and a personalization of the support that we're looking at, right? And the third one, which I have mentioned, that the consumers, the customers now, they appreciate the ability to continue conversations at their own space, and also on applications that they are already using, like examples that I gave you earlier, like Facebook and WhatsApp. These are the emerging go-to channels of engagement. Of course, we are heavily reliant on our
I think there's some bandwidth issue at Ujjwala's end.
Yeah,
Ujjwala, can you hear us?
I think we lost her or something. Yeah, there's a.
Okay, so we'll wait for Ujjwala to get back, and while she resumes the conversation, I would like to ask Vikrant, how is he looking at designing uh, better CX strategies, and incorporating all those challenges which Ashutosh highlighted, Rajat highlighted, and the aspects that Ujjwala was just talking about. Ujjwala, I'll get back to you in a minute once we have heard from Vikrant.
sure, Gaina.
Thanks, Garima. And thanks everyone for joining the call. I can see some of my leaders are present in the call. Hi, Mustafa. So talking about the CX strategies, right? The main objectives which you keep in your mind when you design the strategies are the new products which you're launching in being competitive in the market, and then stabilization of existing products and systems. Right, new products, definitely your product team is being the part of it. They come up with the new ideas, and then development team develops it, and then we roll out in the production. Now, stabilization of existing products and systems is one part of, is I think the major part of uh, which causes the customer churn, right? The turnaround time of the issues. So how you can basically drill down this, how you can make action items are which are able to help you in achieving this strategy. You can basically see what is the turnaround time for the issues. So you have to drill down to the problems you already have in stabilization of existing products. Moving, as Ashutosh mentioned, moving from reactive to proactive approach. So what we did in Razorpay, I can maybe give a brief about few strategies which we have executed here. So we have seen that some of our existing systems were not stable, right? And what we have identified is when it comes to technical teams working on those issues, uh, team starts working in the silos, and we have business teams reaching out to these technical teams. They struggle in getting the issue resolution done, right? So what we have done, we came up with the idea of creating a command center team in Razorpay. So we built a command center team which is responsible for proactively monitoring some of the critical issues, some of the critical alerts, alarms, and parallelly send the communication to the business. So something which your technical teams are communicating to the business, right? Business teams will not be able to translate it. Or they will not be able to communicate the same text to the customers, right? They have to convert it into the business language, in the layman language, which people can understand. So this team actually is playing a great role. Wherein in 3 months we have came to a position that we don't have any P0s, we don't have any infrastructure level outages, right? Wherein what we are now focusing on is the single merchant type of issues, wherein we are going inside the products, and we are seeing that which are basically not the incidents, but these are all bugs, right? I'm just talking about how the journey flows when operations comes in the picture. We also came up with another idea of building a customer engineering team, which is responsible for taking the journey from the sales to the dev teams. So what happens when sales team reaches directly to your dev teams? There is a huge gap, right? There is a gap in sales team communicating the issues to your dev teams getting drained by the alert fatigue, which is getting generated in your organization. So we have built another layer between the sales team, between the business facing teams and the dev teams or the tech teams, which is basically known as customer engineering, which takes care of some amount of issues and filter it. We have trained these people, dev teams basically train these people, and these teams are responsible to take maximum load of alert fatigue, right? They are responsible for absorbing most of the issues which are coming from the single merchants, which is coming from the single users. And then whatever is pending, which is something related to product bug, those are the only issues which it actually goes to the dev teams, right? So it helps dev teams to earn some of the bandwidth, to focus on the new products, to focus on something which is an idea generator, rather than focusing on the day-to-day transactions, day-to-day operations, right? So that is how we built the strategy, and we have achieved uh, world-class numbers. If I just talk about the the command center. In command center, we have mean time to acknowledge the incident less than 1 minute. We do have mean time to engage the stakeholders within 1 minute, right? Industry practices is around 15 to 30 minutes, but this is something which we have achieved by automation within Razorpay. We are moving towards automating most of the metrics we have for the customer engineering teams also. Any questions I can take?
Definitely a milestone worth celebrating, Vikrant. So thank you for helping us understand that part of the story. Again, a very critical challenge highlighted by you was organizational silos. And now coming back to Ujjwala, I would like her to share her thoughts and help us understand how is she looking at designing CX better CX strategies.
That's right, Garima. I'm not very sure at what point I got lost, but there was one another point that I wanted to add. One being, we've also seen the smartphone penetration that's been happening
Right.
across pan India right now. It's no more only in the tier 1 cities, but also in the tier 2 and the tier 3 cities. Now that has also enabled a lot of customers who are good in their vernacular language and not really English, for them to adopt this new technology. Now, supporting them in a vernacular language also becomes imperative, where our whatever customer experience platforms we are giving should be able to at least enable them to understand the questions, respond back, in the vernacular language. Be like, we are looking at leveraging machine learning and chatbot and all of that, but only if it is enabled with multiple languages, it will make more sense to my customers who are in the tier 2 and the tier 3 cities. So that was another point that we need to also be cognizant of. And whenever we are looking for a customer experience solution, a platform, that's something that we would like to adopt.
Extremely relevant argument, Ujjwala, because that is where we get the space to build a better brand recall, I would say, and more personalization, a stronger connect with our customers, right? So over to you, Sagar, now.
Thank you so much, Garima. And I think so. My fellow panelists have kind of covered a lot of stuff on the so-called CX and the way they themselves are handling it at their levels, at their enterprise level, rather. Okay, and a lot of learnings across, especially pandemic. The last 2 years, of course, it's not over as we speak, but the last 2 years, I think that it have shifted a lot of pivot across industry, and financial industry has never been immune to it. And fintech, I always see as one part of so-called the financial industry. And but when you say fintech, which is financial technology, the word typically used or described for technology that automates, improves, deliver financial services. Okay, and then I take the word called as CX, which is customers experience, is actually a heart of today's fintech business. Okay, and this trend is going to last till the time fintech is there or the financial services there. And I want to take this word from Rajat, instantly. Okay? He said everything is instant. Customer wants everything instant. And I define it such a way that, convenience is the number one way for a fintech to encourage their so-called prospect to buy their fintech product or services. And this is driving your volumes. Okay. And to sum it up, I'll rather say therefore it makes perfect sense for the whole industry, which is the fintech industry, to make CX as a priority or a top priority. Thank you so much.
Absolutely, absolutely, Sagar. Thank you so much. And we also see in this story of digital transformation, just a minute, I would request Somali to please switch off your audio and video. Somali, can you hear me?
Across regions.
Can anyone get in touch with Somali and request her to please switch?
Hi, Garima. I'll call and yeah.
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Neha.
That's one.
Yes, so to continue in this narrative, we also see that so many technologies, so many digital solutions are coming up, but there is this level of skepticism among the consumers, right? And everyone is not very willing to adopt to a new environment, and there is this notion that whatever we have been doing so far works fine, works good enough. So how do we move beyond this, and how do we convince or encourage the consumers to adopt these solutions, and how do we really bridge this trust gap that is there? And I would like to ask you, what initiatives or measures specifically are you taking to bridge this trust gap and build, stronger relationships with your customers? Ashutosh, I would like to hear from you first.
Okay. Two things. First, there are, again, to build the trust and engagement and retention is all linked. For that, not necessarily all the activities what we do is online. So if you actually think from a point of view, our business is at the intersection of a pure SaaS and a pure fintech company. And SaaS people in India today, even if you compare with what Byju's does, Byju's also has to do a lot of hand holding on field to get the things done. For example, there are a few Kirana stores near our office who have taken loans from Bharat Pay. But I take a liberty of saying here used to say one of the collection agents also comes and asks, "Bhai, this amount is pending." So this the way we have to bridge the trust is, I think Ujjwala used the word the omni-channel. I would pick that word and say cannot be purely digital. It has to be a interaction which is face to face, through whether you call it account management or sales or whatever term you want to use it. It is your choice or anybody's choice, by the way, because that doesn't make much sense. It has to be, for example, if Rajat and I are there, Asutosh and Rajat have to have a word face to face, and Asutosh and Rajat can also do things online. Now, how to build trust takes a lot of time. You cannot buy trust.
Right.
Trust is earned, whether, for example, if say Rajat or Asutosh or Ujjwala has a team of say 100 people or 500 people, whoever it is, I can't just come and say, okay, you guys, I will be managing or taking responsibility of you guys. So trust me. ऐसा नहीं होता. The same goes for customers and employees and customers. You have to treat very almost the same way. Customers to first is what we promise has to be delivered, right? So the way we work with the product or the engineering team today is that bud fits or an issue trumps any new development. For example, whatever we have offered today, for example, 10 features are there in our offering, which includes lending or payments through Razorpay. So we use Razorpay as well, and say 8 features on our product. Everything should be working on a 99.9% uptime. At least. So that is from a point of view of engineering and product TR. Now, given the scale of clients we have roughly 50,000 clients who pay us on a SaaS basis, and 500,000 clients, slightly more than that, who are using on the free service as well. Now, there's so many API calls, there's so many service requests which happen there. Even 99.9% is not enough. So our next benchmark is how can we do 99.99% of uptime on almost all our services. Then once that is done, then the trust is built. What the second part of the trust is what is called the relationship building. If say Vikrant is my client and so he is based out of Surat and we have a team in Surat, how often do I engage him? How often do I meet him? It did not be every day or every week, but then okay, maybe I'll meet him from a key account management or any other term you use from point of view. Okay, Vikrant, do you have a problem which you can solve for? Is there something else which may not be my forte or my offering, but I can connect him to something else? And that is the second part of building trust, which is the offline side of it, which is kind of a natural empathy part of the salesperson or the account management person. So yes, to answer your question briefly, online, whatever we promise, we deliver with a significantly high uptime. And when the scale of customers grows higher, the 99.99 and nines get added to it. And second part is nothing can replace the offline chat of relationship building, especially when I come from a point of view of SaaS business. Fintech, lot of it can be done digital, but still there's always an element of physical and digital trust building processes, and two are slightly different.
Right.
But yes, the common thread which joins everything is empathy. If we don't have empathy, then, for example, Garima and we can't build trust between both of us. So yeah, that's all. I'll pause here.
Empathy is such a powerful word, and you articulated it so beautifully. Just the need and just the urge to talk to a human being at some points, and I think the online channels can never replace that. And we saw during the pandemic that how people felt the need to talk to a human agent, and somebody who would listen to them, understand their query, and offer them quick resolution, but also empathize with their challenge, which you just highlighted very nicely. So now moving on, posing the same question to you, Rajat. How are you looking at this problem of trust gap, and what exactly do you feel is missing here?
So completely agree with Ashutosh on trust having to be earned rather. It's not a given, and it takes a lot of things to build it. See, we at BharatPay deal with millions of merchants and now millions of customers through postpay as well. For us, and in our experience, especially we've moved from a company who was merchant focused to being customer focused as well. Both cohorts are extremely different. Merchants are still adjusting, customers are relentless, is what we've learned. What we've understood is that there has to be a mix of play between digital and physical. If I start addressing all queries physically, either through, I mean, forget meeting, even through phone calls, it's not sustainable for the business of our scale, which deals in like millions of transactions a month and thousands of crore rupees of TPV, etc. happening. So for us, what we've realized is through the value chain of the product and the customer experience, let's say awareness is the key. So what are the features of the product is something that the customers are more interested to know about, and most of the queries would come on that subject alone when any company looks at their actual voice of customer. So how do you bake that into the product experience? How do you make users aware of features, etc.? When it comes to engagement, which is next, how do you know, how do you plan your engagement in such a way that you do not over engage and you're also not underplaying it? So simply the way a Zomato would reach out to you when your order is left on the cart and would say you're just 5 minutes away, and it will not simply ring bells during lunch or otherwise for you. Next is evaluation in the value chain. So again, like a consumer calling my call center and saying, boss, why is this at 2% rate of interest versus at 2.5 rate of interest, is something I can handle through the app in itself. So again, a product first approach is what we've been following for all these things. Having said that, whenever there is an issue for the user, and this is post purchase journey, when we talk about core support in the life cycle of customer experience, we typically divide our process into 4 key KPIs that we track. We try to limit the issues that come up to us. So we call them incidence rates, and we try to minimize those. We then try to figure out how many issues can be resolved by sales. So that's like self-serve. There are chatbots, etc., which happen over there. Next, we have accuracy of responses and speed of responses that happen. So how many like issues can be resolved first time by the agent who sees it? How can I equip my agent better, etc., to be able to answer the user problems? And finally, whatever escalations that come to my support team, and this is me picking up from what Vikrant had earlier mentioned, there is this innate I should say, tiredness of the engineering when engineering ends up doing support related work. So escalation cases are equally important. Like what are the tags, etc., that can be managed on escalations? As consumers, I mean, now e-commerce, and I'll take that as an example because fintech is relatively e-commerce is an older industry than fintech. Per se, e-commerce has possibly perfected or like crafted their support in a much better manner than what fintech has done till now. All of us as users, when new and new e-commerce sites came by, we would prefer to buy from an Amazon because we would know that their support guy would solve issues. When I talk about credit cards, for instance, like while I may be using 3 credit cards myself, I prefer to talk to the Amex guy always over and above the other guy, because I know that support guy is stronger and he will resolve my issues. So building the right set of support KPIs is extremely important as well, and to keep track of them, make sure you are able to deliver to the user is what would end up in you earning that trust eventually. Is my view on this.
Absolutely, absolutely. Thank you so much, Rajat. Over to you, Vikrant. How are you looking at this challenge, and what would you suggest?
So I'll share my experience. So when I joined Razorpay, I was managing tech support engineering, which is a kind of, again, one part of customer engineering team. You can call it a level 2 support team. So to identify the trust gap or gaps, right, we need to first collect the information from the customer and merchants. So what I did is I created a survey. I reached out to all my enterprise customers. The questions were very specific. As an example, how often do you know about the new features about our product? Do you think that or time within which the resolution provided by our support teams is agreeable? Or if there is a TAM assigned to your enterprise to you, do you think your TAM is proficient enough to or knowledgeable enough to solve your problems, right? So based on these survey results, I was able to capture some high level areas. If there is a knowledge gap within the team, if there is, so what I did is I categorized the team into 3 different verticals. One is taking care of all the enterprise merchants. There we have given the silver spoon facility. They don't have to raise a ticket. They can directly call the TAM which is assigned to them. This guy is more knowledgeable. This guy gets the issue resolved without reaching out to engineering team, right? And then the second, you have less number of GMV, right? You classify them into second category, and then the third category SMEs. You have small and medium scale enterprises. So for SMEs, you can install chatbots. I saw Rajat was mentioning about, and even Ashutosh was mentioning about putting the chatbots. If human touch is not there, trust me, there is a problem. Satisfaction will not be high. Chatbots, we are not there yet. We are not mature enough. So SMEs, you can still, because very less business is coming. Enterprise merchant, you cannot afford losing. So I think this is one of the strategy and from those issues, you will be able to know about some of the bigger problem areas. One of the problem areas which we came to know is some of the systems were not available. Right, we faced some outages last year, which was long enough. All our products were down, all the payments were down in Razorpay. Right? We took that as one of the initiative, and out of that, command center came into picture, and the customer engineering is now shaping up. Right, we need to send these surveys on a continuous basis, because your feedback keeps changing. So now we are able to come out of that position wherein we don't go. There is no major outages are happening, but single merchant issues are still there. The bugs are still there because there are so many changes which are going into the system. So how can we capture those single merchant issues? We are in the engineering side working on some of the monitoring solutions also, so that before merchant reports any issue to us, how can we capture those issues proactively, even if it's only limited to few merchants. Right. So another strategy which came out of survey results, which came out, I think Rajat mentioned one good thing, that you have to go and talk to the people. I think that gives you a lot of insight how you are performing in the market. Right. Your support service, is there something we can do, and then based on that you can devise your strategies within the organization.
Definitely. I think looking at the bigger picture here, personalization, human touch, empathy is going to be the key aspects. And now I would like to understand from all of you, what are some of the biggest challenges that you perceive while designing these customer centric journeys and engaging with customers? Because we have seen that definitely there is a problem when it comes to relationship building and customer engagement. So how exactly are you looking at this, and what are the challenges that you perceive when it comes to designing these customer centric journeys? Because we have already talked about customer expectations, but now taking cues from there, understanding their pain points, and then designing an actionable framework accordingly and implementing those changes, how difficult is that for you? So over to you, Sagar.
Customer centric. So let's put things in perspective. Okay, first of all, how do you define customer centric business? That's the first piece. If you think about it, your CX with your brand begins at the moment the customer realizes you really exist. Okay, and CX is at every touch point, which is your sales, delivery, support, renewals. And I think I'm just trying to take a cue from Vikrant, where he was saying that they have so-called silver spoon to their one of the teams where they can highlight the problems. So I'm saying CX or customer centric is not at a level of where your face is touching the customer, but I think so faces which are not really touching the customer, but also in the part of debugging, enhancing the experience at the app level, enhancing the experience at the product level, services level. And even at kind of as I should have said, people who are meeting customers at the shops, at the touch points where they are engaging for various kind of services, be it even collections for this matter. Okay, we see today that digital driven journey is kind of a linear, and it makes perfect sense for companies to prioritize so-called your customer centric as customer centric at every touch point. Having said that, uh, and I think so a very valid point that we see that when you see customer centric, it's just not about chatbots, not about being digital first. It also being having humane or human, okay, and that adds up to your cost. Okay,
Right.
while we prioritize your CX at every touch point, and that too adding up your human, the biggest challenge I think the fintech is kind of looking at or should look at is how do you address your cost and still ensure that your CX is up to the mark. Uh, I think that's one big challenge I see.
Thank you, Sagar. Over to you, Ujjwala.
Thanks, Garima. So yeah, we did see how the customer expectations have been evolved, right? Especially with this pandemic. And I know the pandemic is, I fingers crossed, it's coming to an end. But at the same time, along that period, of course, we were able to offer customer services remotely, contactless, and everything. But at the same time, here we are talking about engaging with the customer. And as we said, I mean, I think this is the pulse of this panel here. What I understand is, yeah, chatbot is there, machine learning is there, but that human touch is required. Now, for a human touch, when all of us were sitting in our homes and not going to offices, there were this no physical contact that we could do. But at the same time, the agent had to be compliant, had to reach out to the customers with the required platforms. And that is something I believe businesses, were having a challenge moving from an in-person customer support to a remote customer support, right? So this is where, we had to move from physical platforms to SaaS platforms that were available on the internet. Not only that, so as an agent, I am at my home, I am able to serve my customers, be it via calls or, even having a remote video session with the customers. But at the same time, when we're talking about fintech, data security becomes a very important aspect, right? So that is where, we should also look at places where with, some security controls wherein you have your VPN enabled, but at the same time, should also see to it that whatever platforms that contains your customers' data, right, the PII data, all of that is also protected and available only, you know, within that particular network, right? So the platform should be compliant and also give the security of data, right? Data security, or when the agents are accessing this. Now, the second one that businesses also, need to be cognizant of is I mean, of course, I think I'm using that word again, the omni-channel. I understand it's a combination of both digital platforms and also an in-person connect that we give to the customers. But as an agent, for me to understand and give that personalized experience to my customers, I need to be aware and have that entire context of that customer. So just like, Ashutosh was mentioning that, his organization is using tools from different vendors. What happens is it's a disjointed system, and we tend to lose data, right? But if there is a platform that gives you a customer 360-degree view, like CRM is the same, you're getting your chat from the same person, the calling solution from the same person, the desk, the ticketing platform from the same vendor, then you have that seamless integration, and you also maintain the context of the customer and are able to give that personalized support to the end customers, right? So these are 2 points that I wanted to mention on what I feel were the challenges that businesses were facing, especially during the pandemic and even going forward, since we are having an evolved customer expectation.
Right, right. Over to you, Rajat. What are the challenges you have perceived so far in this journey?
Sure. So I think I'll mention two things here. Uh, so see, first is speed to market. And I think when it comes to building a new feature, there is loss of potential business. When it comes to customer experience and issues, there is loss of existing business. So the biggest challenge with customer experience is you can't delay things. You have to be, again, and I mean, this is besides being proactive and trying to be proactive. Whenever something comes to you, you simply can't lax. You have to act and get things done. That's number one. Number two, I think in this time where the entire dynamic is changing, it's also about cost, right? Now, if it were about throwing dollars to give the best customer experience, anybody and everybody can do it, right? Uh, 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 Everybody knows that engagement rates are better on WhatsApp over an like changing your play over on WhatsApp entirely. So that's the other thing. I think the third element which I would mention, which I think has already gotten covered, is making sure everybody speaks the same language. Your application speaks the same language. The CRM agent to whom the call comes speaks the same language. The guy who's replying to emails speaks the same language. Everybody has the same log of the problem, and as well the communication that has thus far gone out is again equally important. And maintaining that there is improvement and tracking performance across this is what I mean is our best bet of improving ourselves on giving a better experience. So that would be the third point.
Right. Thanks, Rajat. Vikrant, what are the challenges you have perceived so far?
I'll start with customer empathy in tech teams, right? Which is less as compared to business teams or a merchant-facing teams. If you talk about the engineering teams, right? If you raise the issue directly to the engineering teams, you tend to take a back seat rather than they will be more proactive in developing something quickly, right? Second is reach of humans at scale, which I think Rajat already mentioned that. I'm talking about economies of scale, right? You will have bots installed, which may resolve some of the quick queries. And I think Ujjwala did mention that once you have a one-stop solution, which has the complete CRM, we may be able to solve. I'm yet to see those results, to be very honest. Uh, when you don't have human touch in resolving some of the issues, be it your SME customer, be it's your enterprise, you tend to get a dissatisfaction there. So I still feel that the AI bots are not there yet. We still need more mature agents who are taking care of the issues in a way that humans actually resolve it. I still remember one advertisement which Airtel did. They were displaying their open tickets at various locations. They mentioned we will keep displaying these numbers till it becomes zero. Right? I still, I mean, obviously that can be a North Star for Airtel, but humanly not possible due to human factor. Trust me, there is no such state as nirvana in operation support. It is a continuous process. You just need to reduce the number of errors from the changes in your existing products. I think that is one key challenge, which I think which is there. The TAT, Rajat mentioned, the resolution time, how much we can reduce. At the same time, you have engineering teams led fatigue, which is going on, right? So we need to take care of the employees also. So there is a very fine line when you say the number of what is the resolution average you will have, and which is expected, which is bearable. And at times you have to let go your customers. At times it happens, right? You cannot win the complete world.
Mm-hmm.
So
Right.
there can be there should be a space for imperfection as well. Is absolutely fine, because considering your employees, you need to make a balance.
Right.
Else you will have another problem of employee attrition.
Absolutely. Over to you, Ashutosh.
Yeah, I think see I think all of the panel covered the aspects which are the greatest challenge, but I would actually say one of the biggest challenge is the internal perception of what the customer empathy is. For example, if you are taking care of the business team, if Rajat is there, Rajat takes care of product in Bharat Pay, right? Now there's always a and then the customer engineering is from Vikrant, and Sadra takes care of sales. So you see that the perception of empathy is very different. When we say customer facing teams are high empathy, speak to product manager in our team, you will see मेरे से ज़्यादा empathy हो ही नहीं सकता. Now the point is it's very different. Now what is that perception of the empathy? If you see, actually from my point of view, the salesperson who is selling on the field or on the call is empathizing with the person at that point of time. Support person is also facing the customer, resolving the problem. Product teams which are proactive enough to reach out to customers all the time. So there are a lot of teams, product teams, the good teams are always on their toes and speak to the customers every day, day in, day out. For example, in our company, a few of us, we speak to at least 10 users a day. Few of them are happy, few of them are not happy, whichever hierarchy you are. So from that point of view, then your empathy is at least, or the perception of the empathy is balanced. Then you can say, अच्छा ठीक है, product तो समझ में आता है, support तो समझ में आता है, and sales also understands, and we are on the same level of talking terms. So I would say the biggest challenge is your internal stakeholders and the perception of what the customer empathy is, and how do you understand that. Then I think all the solutions which Vikrant, Sagar, Ujjwala, and Rajat have said all comes to light. This is the precursor. When you have discussions and when your entire teams or the relevant part of the core team is aligned on that, then they are okay. They are, and they are the same empathy, same ye customer. This is the pain, and this is how you need to resolve it. If everybody uses the same voice, which I think Rajat was using the sentence as well, then the problem is much more easier to resolve, because then we are moving to execution front. But what happens when you have a core team meeting of 5-6 people and everybody has a different voice? Hey, this features need to be prioritized. Nahi, ye chahiye. Sales ye batata hai. Inside sales ye batata hai. Customer support tells these things. But I have heard 5 customers telling me these things. What do you prioritize? Who do you choose upon? Now that is where the biggest dichotomy, so the biggest dilemma comes in, where if you do not speak the same voice internally, then you cannot execute all the tools which the panel members just said. So yeah, I'll just, this is internal, and all what the 4 views came in, these are what we need to execute. दोनों चाहिए होता है in any company, be it Razor Pay, Bharat Pay, Ozone Tel, Freshworks, or in Padarwood, does not matter, or wherever you are in any company anywhere.
Right, right. So I think considering all these challenges, how aligned are we as an organization? That is something we need to put into perspective here. Sagar, now to understand from you, you talked about cost in your earlier statement. So how are you looking at this challenge of cost viability when it comes to customer experiences, and how can fintech companies keep their input cost low while maintaining the same level of efficiency?
We've got eminent panelists on with us today. Look, I look at fintech at 2 sides. One is increasing scale or increasing volume, and trying to keep the cost low by all automations. Okay, and I think that the cost is a key factor in fintech, because the whole idea is to kind of deliver to the scale and with a small ticket size per se. How do you do that? Okay, so I think so cost at every level of productization, services, delivery is there. And of course, when we say that, I'm sure CX doesn't kind of get away by that. So you have to also look at cost at the CX level. Okay, let me give you a few stats before I kind of jump into it. And also want to kind of mention that there's definitely Rajat said that cost is the element, and if you have got enough dollars in your pocket, you can throw up and you can get a good CX. But yes, the whole idea with fintech company, as I said, is volumes and cost. How do you do that cost? But as that, let me just try and jump on a few figures. So our 2020 vertical report card suggested that 28% average talk time has increased during the pandemic, indicating a lot of human engagement and a touch which is required, especially assurance, empathy. These were I kind of gel with that. And interestingly, financial services vertical, especially financial services vertical, we saw average talk time going up by 150%, more than any other industry which we can look at. In the financial industry, of course, you also have something called as fintech as an industry. And that also suggests that a lot of human interaction is required. Okay. And how do you deliver human interaction with a high amount of efficiency, volume, most important, keeping cost control? Typically, the answer is automation. And I think so the whole subject of fintech or fintech industry is based on so-called automation. So we will typically say, APIs and integration with your so-called technologies at a single level platform is kind of crucial. We're seeing a lot of companies, and I'm sure my friends here will agree to the fact that a lot of customers or companies started with so-called digital first, and they kind of move to so-called human interaction. And there are so many companies, what we have seen also, they started with so-called human interactions, and then they meant to or move to so-called digital first. I think the cross segment, what we have seen is yes, and it definitely comes out with a lot of panelists been saying that convenience coupled with personalized and a right mix of so-called digital and human across touchpoint is most needed. And how do you optimize that? Is with excessive deep analysis, okay, and then kind of improve it over. For example, let me put it this way: a dialer can achieve your so-called first-time right contact frame from a 24 hours to a 10 minutes, 3x more effective campaigns, and 30% more productive agents. So these are all things. Self-service, and I just want to kind of add to a layer to it, is self-service. Personalized IVR can reduce 40 to 60% load, okay, of your so-called agents, and most importantly, 20% customer satisfaction. Okay, and while we achieve this, what is most important, and I think so, fintech, which rides upon all your financial services, which is so compliant in all matters, I think so we cannot take away so-called your security and privacy. And with Freshworks and Horizontal, which we deliver the enterprise grade security and services with HIPAA, ISO, PCI DSS, GDPR. I think so. So I believe that fintech ecosystem can leverage that amount of security and privacy at a fraction of a cost while deploying it in their so-called environment. I think a simple example, not directly related to so-called privacy or security, but yes, there's something called as PII, which is personal identified information. Okay, even at Horizontal, we get a lot of requests from customers across verticals to kind of mask this PII data at the agent level and the supervisor level. Let me try and wrap it up saying that convenience, as I said, convenience brings in scales, brings in volumes, brings in kind of assurance to the customer that it is an instantaneous award to them for getting that services right. So convenience coupled with personalization, especially the millennials we spoke about, identity and solving with automation, quality customer support. My fellow friends definitely spoke about that. Evaluating customer touch point using speech and AI is a way to go to increase your CX while you keep your costs viable. Thank you so much.
Great insights, Sagar. Thank you so much. And now moving on to you, Ujjwala, you were talking about omni-channel experiences, right? So how are you looking at these AI-enabled omni-channel experiences? And if you could share a success story or an example, personal, story, that would be great. We would love to understand from you.
Sure, Garima. Right. Let me start with digress a little bit, and then I will eventually come to what I'm trying to convey, right? So whenever, we are talking about a fintech company and we're talking about customer support for a fintech company, and if they were to onboard a vendor, a customer service platform, then I believe they should look at into two aspects, right? First is the initial solutioning, how we can have that one-stop shop where the agent gets enough context about the customer and is first of all able to receive queries from different platforms and also get the context and respond back to the customer, right? Which eventually also impacts the time to respond. But at the same time, another aspect that any fintech organization should be cognizant of is the how the vendor that they are onboarding can scale with the growing fintech company, and also their ever growing customer base. Now, scaling the customer service should never be an afterthought. They should always onboard a vendor which will, scale with them, right? And now, while scaling, if we also, proportionally increase the headcount, the customer support agents, I mean, I believe that would not be the smartest of choice. Now, having said that, also, I think Vinkrant and Rajat and all of them, they were talking about the same point in giving a human touch, especially to the enterprise customers. And it's okay, SMB can, it could be a healthy combination between technology, chatbot, machine learning, as well as a human touch, right? So while scaling, this is what, you know, there's like that healthy combination that we have, right? So you have the artificial intelligence, machine learning that can obviously be leveraged to, service this increasing customer base that we have, right? Machine learning can be trained to answer the queries. It can be, trained to give both generic and complex answers, which essentially will alleviate, the agents and deflect the queries, right? At the end of the day. And also with chatbots, we have, decision tree chatbots, we have natural language processing chatbots, which again can take inputs, controlled inputs from the customers. It could be used as the initial heavy lifter, right? And then take all the data from the customer. If it's able to solve itself, well and good, but it can also seamlessly hand it over to an agent, right? Now, also from the agent side of things, when we're talking about fintech, there could be many manual processes which we can automate with, robotic process automation. That's also something that, the platform should be, the vendor, that the customer support vendor that we are onboarding should be capable of doing, right? Now, we understand that, to enhance the existing chatbot, now initial solutioning is done, but at the same time, as the business grows, you would have to enhance the chatbot flows or other administrative work to do. Now that platform should be intuitive and also have that short learning curve, easy to use, where the businesses themselves can make the necessary changes, which can lead to a faster time to market than having a complex platform and depending on solution architects to do the job, which again will lead to cost and time. And this is exactly what has happened with one of our, fintech customers. They are India's one of the largest peer-to-peer payments provider, and they came with pain points of, customers asking repetitive questions, rapidly increase, and that obviously increases the volumes because the customer base is also increasing. And the agents are also taken off, work for training, and this hindered their work per se, and skyrocketing costs, which to provide that service to the base, to their user base, right? And how we solved it was giving an artificial intelligence first customer service with customer facing bots as the first line of defense. And we've seen that approximately 85% of the queries were handled by the bot itself. And not only that, even for the agents, we gave an assist bot, which helps the agent in their on-job training or onboarding. And also, but as I said, a graceful failover to to the human agents for support. Now, this is how we solved for it. And in fact, when we started the solution with them, we only had around 35 bot flows. But as they scaled up, the company itself, the fintech company itself, have now created 800 different chatbot flows. So that is how I would like to say that, a platform should be AI enabled and give that omni-channel experience at the end of the day to the fintech organization to give a seamless customer support.
Thank you so much, Ujala. And with this, we also have a question coming up from the audience. Mr. Shailesh wants to know, with the increase of digital convenience, we are seeing an increase of frauds also happening and ultimately affecting the end users. What level of efforts are being made by the fintechs to mitigate frauds at customer end? So if Rajat, you would like to take up this question, that would be great.
Sure. I think two aspects here. The first one, of course, is education. So lots of times as a payments company, we've seen whether it's a pay-in use case or a payout use case, There are folks in the market who misguide, mislead users, especially on the merchant side, right? Like anybody will go across and tell them, "Ye repay kar de through this UPI handle," and that UPI handle will have somewhere a Bharat Pay written in it. So we always encourage people to use the app. We have authentication mechanisms, fraud checks, etc. built on the app. We are not fans of payment initiation happening from outside the app. Initiation can happen inside the app, while fulfillment can happen from outside the app. That way, I'll still get to know through webhooks, etc. in terms of statuses. The second, I think, item here, besides this, is how you want to utilize your own data to build proactive features, which preempt a fraudulent behavior. And I'll take the example of, let's say, collections here. So for us, we see that there are a lot of mispractices that happen by collection agents, right? Now, how best can I consume the information that comes from ground and build them in my processes such that they don't repeat themselves is an important measure. And they happen both on physical as well as digital accounts. So the example that I just mentioned is completely physical in nature. Like one of the collection agencies abusing their whatever, like power or right, or I mean, neither power nor right, just abusing the opportunity of being on the call with the customer instead, is practices that you have to correct. So education, and then reactively how you can make sure that once fraud is identified, it does not happen again. An identification of the fraud and resolution of that fraud is not enough. Making sure that a similar thing does not happen again, such that you have those processes, systems, products in place, is, I think, two key areas of focus.
Right, right. Thank you so much, Rajat. And with this, we come to the end of our discussion. But before that, I would love to hear concluding remarks by all of you. What is the key element that you would like our audience to take home today? What are some of the aspects that you would like them to reflect upon and, understand that effortless CX is so much more than just technology and just processes, operational efficiency or cost? What exactly is the pillar here? So Ashutosh, you can
Yeah, I'll just very briefly, I think, keep in while you train your team, have a very high level of empathy for your frontline people. And the same way, as I said, frontline people can be the customer support people, sales people, or the PMs or engineers who speak to the customers. And second, empathy for the customers. So empathy is two-way street. Treat your employees well, and they will treat your customers well. And at the same time, treat your customers well as well, because we also speak to customers directly. That's all.
right, right. Thank you so much. Ujjwala, over to you.
Right. I think the key takeaway is that human touch that all of us have spoken about. Though we talk so much about technology and chatbot and AI enabled, there should be that healthy balance between the two. And I think that is my key takeaway, where technology can never replace human touch. Right.
Right.
So
Thanks, Ujjwala. Vikrant, would love to hear from you now.
Yeah. So my suggestion is there is no such single solution for all the problems. I think before you actually hop onto any of the strategy, I think collect the information from your customers. Go back to your customers, take surveys before you actually arrive at what is the problem area in your organization. That is what I have done. I think that is my key takeaway.
Okay, Rajat.
So I think two things, again. So proactive rather than reactive, and product led rather than support led. Support is the most, while it might be the most integral component of managing a customer question, query, incidents. But I think the right way to think about customer experience is limiting tickets to begin with. So that should be the mindset at the onset.
Right, right. Over to you, Sagar.
No, a lot of great insights. I kind of wrote something like like what Rajat was saying, e-commerce, they're learning from e-commerce how they great are in terms of their customer support KPIs, speed to market. I heard about. I understood from Rajat in terms of how do you want to educate the customer, because it's primarily important. And then Ashish was talking about training the internal stakeholders. How did they talk to the customer in terms of their communication language skill set? Then we learned about from Vikrant, how do you understand AI, but yes, it's still not there, and they can still be, they'll be improved a lot. So I'm saying CX to make it more effortless. I think there are a lot of things to be done across industry, and it's just not a customer, but every stakeholder which includes in the company, which is the top level guy or front level guy, has to be part of it. And everyone in this narrative deserves to get a great experience. And I believe that fintech company can be the real champion on the both sides of the equation to kind of change the entire game around. So this is where I like to conclude upon. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sagar. So I think today we saw that what effortless CX actually looks like for fintech companies. What are the challenges that you have overcome so far? What are some of the aspects that you're really focusing upon? Like all of you talked about humanization of brands, personalization, empathy, customer support, and alignment and harmony between the various organizational teams. So I think there is a lot that we need to think about and understand from this discussion today. Thank you so much for making time for this conversation. And we look forward to learning more from you, all of you, in the times to come. Thank you so much once again.
Thank you.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
everyone.
Thank you
Thank you
so
so
much,
much. Take care.
everyone.
Bye.
Yeah, Ikta here from the Analytics. So on behalf of the partners, Freshworks and Ozontel, thank you so much, Mr. Vikrant, Mr. Rajat and Ashutosh, for sharing your insights on the panel. Thank you, lovely audience, for joining, taking out your precious time and being here with us. We shall be sharing the entire session's video with you guys and would be happy to reconnect you with Ozontel and Freshworks for the wonderful solutions for the fintech industry. So thank you once again and stay safe, everyone.
Yes.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you so much. Take care. Bye.